Eastern time. I'm sitting in my my home office in Kitchener, Ontario, which I've been doing since April. I started with Opimian in February, myself and Greg Reinhardt, my co-managing director, and I had been going to the office Monday to Friday in Montreal, and then COVID changed that dramatically. So I'm now working from my home office in Kitchener. We also have the staff, a staff of 10 to 12, if you include Greg and me, and we have them working remotely from home as well, because Montreal is currently in the red, so we don't want anybody getting near one another with COVID being a risk. So everybody's working from home, and I have to say it's been working remarkably well. We've been able to have all of our meetings. In fact, I probably have too many meetings, and we get the work done. And as you've seen, all of the cellar offerings have been going out as normal. And we have noticed that COVID's probably part of it, but we have been selling a lot of wine to members. There's no question about that. And that was one of the reasons for CWEB to repeat it from last year. One of the reasons you're here is to find out more about the wines that are on the online only offering. And that was done briefly last year as well. We wanted to repeat that, and I'll let Jane talk a little bit more about that. But Anna and Greg and myself from the office, and Jane in England, we got together. What you'd call us is the logistics and wine sourcing team, and we decided what we would do for CWEB, what would be the theme this year. And Jane came up with this incredible idea that I will leave to her to discuss with you. Today on the call, what I had thought was that we weren't going to, what you as members aren't going to have a connection to these wines in the same way that you do, in that every single one of these wines is the first time to Opimian, and mostly the first time in Canada, first time available, and we wanted you to have a better sense of what those wines are. So we brought along today, we're going to do France today, and then we're doing Italy next week. There's 61 individual SKUs or wines for you to choose from this offering. So we've got Philippe Larche from Vintex, and we've got Floris Lemstra from Chateau Lafrenelle. And we approached them and asked them if they knew of people in their neighborhood that had problems, and I'll let Jane talk about that. Sorry, Jane, I'm keep going back to it. So what I did want to talk about, there may be some non-members on the call. If that's the case, Opimian is a group of 10,000 wine lovers across Canada. There are people on the call from all 12 provinces and territories, and we're the only wine club in Canada that sells in all of those areas. So what I wanted to tell you is how this is going to work. Given the size of the group, we would like you to open your chat, which if you move your cursor, you're going to see the word chat along the bottom. And if you click that chat, then there's going to be something that will come up along the right-hand side, and you can type your answers into that. Anaïs and I will, Anaïs Philippe is our events coordinator from head office, and she's coordinated this whole thing. Thank you, Anaïs. And she and I will monitor the questions and then do them at the appropriate time, and you'll be able to ask Jane and Philippe and Floris any question you like, and we'll get to it. We're going to try and keep this to about an hour 15, so we don't take up your entire afternoon with that. I did want to talk a little bit about what's going on at Opimian. This glass that you saw me drinking from is actually a Wine Wings glass from Riedel, and we've now started selling Riedel glasses in the gift shop on the website, so you can have a look at that. That's with the Opimian logo. You can get them plain or with the logo on it, and I absolutely love these glasses and think it's a wonderful connection for Opimian. And then here's that one's called the Wine Wings series. This is called the Performance series, and with the Performance, they've got some optics on the glass, as you can see, so they wanted the logo to go on the foot. But again, those are available in the gift shop if you want to have a look there. So I've told you how this is going to work. I've shown you the glasses. I'm actually drinking a Chateau Lafrenelle again, 2015. It's a lovely wine, and it tastes particularly good in these Riedel glasses. And I don't think Jane needs introduction, but I'm going to anyway. Jane is our master of wine. She's one of just a little over 400 in the world, And it certainly differentiates us as a club to have our own Master of Wine. And Jane tastes all the wines that we offer to you. So correct me if I'm wrong, Jane, but I believe that she tastes about over 3,000 wines a year and chooses about 500, 600 for us each year from around the world. So I will leave it to you, Jane and Ace, if you want to spotlight Jane, and off you go. Thank you very much. I'll be back.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and welcome. I can no longer scroll through and see who's on the call, but I recognise a few faces, but many other people that I don't know. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you, Michael, for the introduction. As Michael says, part of my role is to source wines for Opimian, exclusive wines from all around the world. And as you all know, those of you who are members at least will know that we put together cellar offerings over the course of the year. Each one focuses on particular wine regions or countries. And for each of those cellar offerings, I'm looking for something that's completely exclusive in terms of wines that are great value for money, come with real authentic, made by winemakers, interesting, really flavoursome wines. And as Michael said, back in, I think it was about May, June time, I was on one of these virtual calls with Greg and Michael and our colleague Anna. And we were just talking about what we could do that was different to the web offering that was done last year. So you may remember last year was the first time Opimian had ever done a web offering, and it was a much smaller offering. And what we did last year was to offer some of the popular wines that had already been offered during the course of the year. And actually this year we wanted to do something quite different to that. And so we were sort of racking our brains. And at that time, I had obviously been reading a huge amount about what was going on in the world of wine. And I know this year has not been easy for anybody, but particularly in the wine business, there was a lot of discussion at the time because restaurants were shut, there was no tourism, and a lot of smaller independent wineries in France, in Italy, and in other places really depend quite heavily on restaurant and tourism trade. And so I'd been reading a lot of information about what was happening, how people were struggling. And at that point in time, the OIV, which is one of the big sort of international organizations, was sort of saying, we are going to end up with this huge surplus of wine. It has to be dealt with because actually we've still got grapes to come in this year at harvest time. We need to make space in the wineries. We can't just sit on all this wine. They were talking about having to send some of this to be distilled. Anyway, all of that was going on. And over the course of the discussion with Michael and Greg and Anna, I sort of said, well, what about, could we do something? Could we somehow help? And in my view, it's a sort of win-win. So it's helping out those producers, but also giving us an opportunity to try some different wines that we've not had opportunity to try before. And actually, we had another meeting lined up for the next day. And overnight, I then actually, the following morning, with the time difference, obviously I'm based in Europe, Michael and Greg and Anna are all in Canada. I actually spoke to Floris. So Floris can give you his side of the story. I promise we haven't sort of discussed it before this event this evening. But I picked up the phone and said to Floris, look, we're thinking about what we could do that's different. Do you think that there are producers that we could work with to do something special that helps them and which is really good for us? So it's, for me, I know it's been a very, very difficult year for all of us, for everybody in their sort of personal and business lives. But I do think that this has been a bit of the silver lining on the cloud, because for me, it's meant that I've discovered producers that I've never come across before, tasted some fantastic wines that I've never come across before, really excited. Obviously, many of these domains and the producers I've never been to, I've never met the people that make the wine. They've purely been picked through tasting and then just showing really, really well in the tasting themselves. That's really how it all came about. So I know that Floris and Philippe are going to talk a little bit more about some of the wines that we've sourced, that they've helped source, because the first thing I did was, obviously these are producers that I don't know, so I need to tap in somehow to find them and work with our own network to actually identify some of those people. So both Philippe and Floris and some of the guys in Italy who'll be on the call next week have done a great job in actually going out, looking, being the feet on the ground, if you like, and coming up with samples, getting things sent to me still in London. And I was very concerned at the beginning, so we were in full lockdown, as to whether samples would actually get through customs, be released, be able to be delivered to the office for tasting. But that actually all happened relatively smoothly. So huge thanks to the producers, the producers who made the wine, but equally to those people like Floris and Philippe who have helped make this happen. It's been absolutely great. Also great, and I'm going to talk about one of the estates here. As I say, I haven't met the people, but Domaine de Mermez, which is the wine that's in my glass right now, and you will find in the Cellar offering. And the reason that I mention them in particular is that you may be aware that we've also launched in this web offering our new subscription case program, which is the Master's Case. And so the Domaine Mermez, and this is the bottle. I should probably try and find you the lot number, but I can't see it right in front of me now. Sorry, so Domaine de Mermez, it's 2128, 2129 and 2130. I'm tasting the Merlot 2128, which I think is absolutely stunning. I think all three wines are stunning. And just to give you a heads up that this case, or these wines, this Domaine is the producer for the Master's Case. So it will be our first ever Master's Case. I think it's a brilliant start to the Master's subscription case program. Those of you that are signed up, I think we're going to have some great fun, because I hope you know that one of the things that we're going to do going forwards, even after lockdown and everything else and COVID is finished, what we're going to do with this case program now is that you will receive the wines, and then once most people in Canada have the wines, we will actually organise a tasting where we can all taste these together and share comments. So that's going to be great fun. Other wines that I will just touch on, purely because Floris and Philippe are going to talk about other things, but I will be throwing in my comments, I think, as they talk about their wines. But we also have a property in Vaucluse that has produced a very lovely Syrah. So that's lot number 2131. And there's a Côte de Rhône village from Vallias, which is the Chateau Montplaisir, very small estate, very old. Again, I haven't been there firsthand, but from what I can gather and have learned, the wines are just stunning. They're all organically grown. Small estate that's been sort of spent a lot of money in doing up the original buildings and everything, but the actual wine is just stunning too. I'm not sure, Michael, how you want to play this, but I will perhaps just talk through this particular Merlot, and then I'll hand over, because I know that we've got a lot to get through, and I can always come back to and we'll have some conversation as we go through with Floris and
yeah, I think you're right, Jane. I think we'll want to get through as many wines as we can and kind of give the audience just one sense of what that wine, how it belongs in the set. Because what I find when I get this 60-page Cellar offering with 60 wines in it, what should I buy? And so obviously with the Merlot, if you know Merlot, this one's obviously a good one, and so on. So yeah. and then we can move along. Sure.
Okay, so this is a Merlot. It's produced in the Ardèche. It's got lovely, delicious sort of dark fruits, black currants, violets, blueberries, very ripe fruits, very soft, very gentle, but it still has real presence on the palate. So very easy drinking. and a nice savoury finish to it. And I think I will then move on and let the next person speak.
Right. So, and again, we can talk about some questions as they come in as we go. And Jane, we've had a quick one here. Are there unoaked Merlots in the collection of this particular in the 60? And that might be a tough question to answer without looking through the whole thing. I've got it here. But,
just to be fair to me,
yes, that's right.
I'm already working on the next. I've already done tastings for the next 3 cellar offerings. So off the top of my head, for the 60 that are in this, I couldn't honestly say that I can give you that. But if you want to carry on, then I will have a quick look through and see. But in fact, this Merlot itself doesn't have oak at all. It's
right. So that would be very little.
Others, yeah.
And there was I hope you don't mind, Jane Bishop, my saying that you've asked this question. And one thing a lot of people may not know is that the icons that we do in the cellar offering are very informative. So if there's an oak barrel on the grid that's below the listing, and if it's fully black or filled in, that means there's a ton of oak on that particular wine. If there's no barrel, typically there's no or very little oak. So that's one thing. You can look through this and actually determine the level of oak just from the icons that we've provided. So we
just reading through this quickly scanning through. I think if you're looking for an unoaked Merlot, it looks like this might be the only one, but it is bloody fantastic. So if you want an unoaked Merlot, I definitely think this is the one to go for.
And someone had asked, and it's a great idea, that we'll put the lot numbers of anything that's talked about in the chat so that you've got it in writing. And this one is 2128. Is that correct, Jane? The one that yes.
21. Hang on. 2128, yeah.
2128. So thank you for that, Anique, for putting that in there. And so we'll move over to Floris. Floris and I have become good friends, I would say, wouldn't you, Floris? That you're muted, by the way. But we get to meet virtually. We get to meet Floris and I.
Better?
That's much better. Once a week on Zoom, I think, and on Teams and every other virtual platform known to man. Everybody's using them all. And and Floris has just been one of those wonderful partners of Opimian that will do anything for our members and just make such incredible wines. It's wonderful to represent you in Canada, Floris. And I'll let you speak to how you came about looking for these wines on our behalf, and how much, if you don't mind my spilling the beans, how much fun you had doing so. So over to you, sir. Enjoy.
Thank you. Well, Michael, first of all, thank you for having me. And before I'm going to start talking about these wines, Jane, you talked about the whole setup of this CWEB offering, and I just wanted to give you a little bit a perspective on how it's perceived on our side. Normally when I stand here, so this is my office, best place to be, cool in the summer and cool in the winter, and surrounded by lots of goodies. And normally when I'm here, I talk about wine, how it's made, what it's tasting like, the terroir. And one of the few things we don't talk about much is how it's distributed. Obviously, there are billions of wines sold around the world. Only the Languedoc, where I'm here today, it represents 250,000 hectares. That's something like 600,000 acres, the biggest vineyard in the world. And obviously that is a huge industry that is behind it, and that is a lot of mouths that are fed with the bottles of wine that are produced and subsequently distributed. So obviously a crisis and a pandemic like we're living through today has a huge impact, because a lot of the distribution channels that Jane was talking about have been impacted. If you sell through wholesale channels, restaurants and hotels that are closed are obviously not buying wines from wholesalers, and then we don't sell to them. Supermarkets, shops, it's been complicated. And what we found, and what you also hinted on, Michael, is that one of the distribution channels that have worked quite well over the last 6 to 8 months is what we call B2C. It's direct sales, it's mail order, internet, and wine clubs. And so it's sometimes people think it's almost bad when you say, well, we've done really well during the pandemic. But I just wanted to say, we're very happy that you do well during the pandemic, because we just finished preparing your order for the Languedoc offering that was done last month. And that is what helps us survive. And we employ 15 people here in the vineyard, in the cellar, and they're all guaranteed a job and a paycheck at the end of the month, because this kind of distribution is surviving and it's doing well and is helping us survive in result. So when Jane called me a couple of weeks, or no, probably more than a couple of months ago, to talk about the idea, we are very lucky to have been working with you. This is our 10th year. This is our 10th anniversary that we've been working with Opimian, and we've built this up thanks to you guys. And we're very lucky to have been able to ship. Even the last orders even went out this week, to ship wines to Canada and continue to sell and continue to survive in a very difficult business climate. However, there are lots of people here that don't have access to that kind of distribution, that are dependent on local sales, tourism. I mean, we're close to the Cité de Carcassonne, third biggest tourist attraction in France, 3 million people a year. There's been nobody this summer. I mean, it's been completely quiet. So a lot of people that are dependent on local sales or restaurant sales, hotel sales, they're just not selling anything. And if you have a small domain, family estate, that is extremely complicated. So when this opportunity was, when Jane suggested the idea and talked about how we should go about it, for me to then go out and talk to friends and colleagues, saying, well, have you sold have you ever sold to Canada, and would you be willing to? Everybody actually jumped on the opportunity, and it was an awesome job to do, to be honest, because how you can imagine how I was welcomed knocking on the door of a small wine domain saying, well, I've got these people in Canada that are really interesting to look at your wines. And they're like, oh my God, that's exactly what we need right now. So, and it is also something which is extremely gratifying to do, because if you work with wine, it is often based on a passion. I mean, if it isn't, I always say you can't really make good wine if your heart and soul isn't in that bottle. And a lot of people have that. I mean, and so to go to see a colleague who's in trouble and say, let's taste your wine, let's select some, let's send them to Jane so she can select some. It's a wonderful thing to share. And I think on behalf of all the people that are in the offering of the CWEB offering, I want to just, first of all, before we start talking about wine, say a huge thank you to Opimian for making this offering happen and helping these domains to get through this very difficult people, and to all the members of Opimian for making it work. And so there's a little bit left in my glass, so cheers to you all. Thank you. So that also serves to lubricate my throat, and to start looking at the wine. So quite a big selection, because the Languedoc, as I mentioned just now, is a very, very big region. 600,000 acres. It's humongous, but also with an enormous variety of different appellations. So the first appellation we're going to look at, one of the domains Jane selected in the web offering is a chateau called Chateau Jouclari. It's in the Cabardès. So the Cabardès is to the west of me here in the Minervois. So not very far. It's literally 20-minute drive, because we are already on the most westerly side of the Cabardès. It is a wonderful terroir. I mean, if I were to buy some more vineyards, which hopefully one day I might do, is I would definitely go to the Cabardès. Why? Because it's different. It is it's tiniest appellation. So when I said 250,000 hectares or 600,000 acres, the Cabardès, the entire Cabardès declares every year 450 hectares out of 250,000. So it's tiny. And the particularity about the Cabardès is that they first of all are very much influenced by two different winds. So we are mainly influenced by the Mediterranean wind with a blend of the Atlantic winds. There it's very much the opposite. It's dominated by the Atlantic wind, which is very cool and fresh. So it's a very different terroir. Plus, the big difference is that they have different grape varieties. In the Minervois, where I am at, we have to use the Languedoc or the Mediterranean grape varieties. And so you're talking Syrah, Grenache, Mourvèdre, Cinsault, Carignan. The Cabardès is a blend between Mediterranean and Médoc. So we have things like minimum 40% Syrah and Grenache, for example, and then another 40% Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon. So it's a really, really fun wine. One wine I wanted to hint on is the Viognier from my friend Pascal. So Domaine Jouclari is a domain of about 60 hectares. And Pascal, who has taken over from his dad, he's 45 years old, and he makes an awesome Viognier. Viognier is, I really like it, but because we have a fairly warm climate in the south in general, it's quite easy to get a Viognier, which is quite heavy, quite high in its alcohol, lacking acidity. Because they're in that slightly more westerly side with this dominance of the Atlantic winds, we get a Viognier that has on one side the apricot, the lychee, the kind of tropical flavors, without being too overpowering, but it still has a lovely fresh structure and a good acidity next to its quite round and full body. So definitely something I want to recommend. Other two wines from Domaine Jouclari is of course the Cabardès, the two red wines. One is the Cuvée Tradition, which is mainly a very gourmand, very juicy structure. So with the two Médoc and Languedoc grape varieties. And then there is the Guillaume, the special cuvée he makes. It's called Guillaume De Jouclari, which is one of his ancestors, which is oak matured, which is a lovely wine. So absolutely something I can recommend as a different wine. I call the Cabardès the best of both worlds. Philippe, you'll have to try it as a Bordeaux person. It's kind of in between us and you and the Languedoc. So it's the best of both worlds, worth trying out. The next domain is La Voûte de Verdu. It's another story, and I'm not going to give you maybe a lot of details about each wine because Jane has done a wonderful job writing them up and has tasted them. So I'm actually kind of scared saying anything about them because she knows more about it than I do. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the story behind the wine. So La Voûte de Verdu is a relatively young domain, which is was started by the parents. This is complicated. So the parents of the wife of my winemaker. So Pierre, who is the winemaker here, we call it an enologist. He is married to his wife Mélanie, and her parents have this estate. And Pierre is a very gentle, unassuming, but very brilliant winemaker. I like him a lot, and so we taste wine together all the time. And one day he brought this bottle and said, "Oh, why don't you try this?" And it was absolutely delicious. I said, "Well, who made that?" And he said, "My wife did." I said, "Oh, wow." So this is Mélanie, who makes the wines for her parents, more or less, because they used to be in a cave cooperative. And because she, like her husband, Pierre, my winemaker, she's a winemaker as well, works somewhere else. But in the weekend, she goes home and she helps her parents with making these wines. And, you know, Jane, you selected, I think the biggest selection of the Languedoc is from La Voûte de Verdu. Yeah, there are 4 wines, white, rosé, and 2 reds. They're all delicious. I love the rosé. The white is delicious, very fresh and crisp. The first red which is their Languedoc cuvée, which is very juicy, but quite a big wine already. But then there's the last one, which is called Cuvée Le Gonzo, and that's the wine that Pierre brought me that one day, and it's quite interesting, but it reminded me very much of one of our own wines, which is called Les Évangiles. It's a huge wine, but it's also a very gentle wine. I think in this case, you can, I don't want to stigmatize, but you can really see that it has got the gentle and elegant touch of a female winemaker, because it's absolutely beautiful and elegant, but at the same time, it's got a big structure, because it's a big wine. It's been oak matured, but oak without being overly oaked. She found the right portion between new oak, 1-year-old, 2-year-old barrels, without making it too dry to extract from vanilla and toast and stuff. So it's a delicious wine, which I can really recommend. La Voûte de Verdu, Le Gonzo. So that is Melanie's big wine. Moving on to, I don't know what's the Corbière. So Corbière, contrary to the Cabardès, that's the biggest wine region within the Languedoc. So all these wines are different appellations in this huge region called the Languedoc. Corbière within that. So Cabardès is the smallest with 450 hectares. Corbière is the biggest with about 15,000 hectares of one appellation. 1,300 winemakers, domains. Big region. It's on exactly the other side of us. Not very far. La Combe Grande, Domaine La Combe Grande is about 40 minutes drive from here, and this is where La Voûte de Verdu. It's a story of young people with a new story, and this is the most classical wine estate you can imagine, but they do a great job, and it's traditional, but they just stick to their core values of making really good wines. It's Delphine Sourniès with her husband. So she took it over from her parents, who took it over from their parents, and it's gone back quite a long time. It's quite a big estate. It's 80 hectares, so about 200 acres. So that's a big estate. But they do everything themselves. Everything is hand harvested, or almost everything is hand harvested, and they do quite a lot of their wines as maceration carbonique. So in the wines, the Corbière that are in the offering, you will have part of traditional vinification, so in tanks or concrete vats, or where we let the chapeau come up and push the cap down. But another part is hand harvested, and the whole bunches are put in fermentation tanks and fermented under the method of carbonic maceration, which creates what we call intercellular maceration, and it has a lovely way of extracting a huge amount of fruit out of the grape. So it's a lovely wine. Two different cuvées, one with a little bit of oak, the other one completely fruit oriented. I think Jane, you like them a lot yourself, and also, I know I shouldn't talk about prices and such. They are an awesome deal, because they're very well priced. One wine that I don't have on the table, but there are two wines actually. There's the Chardonnay and the Malpère. Malpère is the very last vineyard of the Languedoc before you get to Toulouse. Often forgotten, not very well known. But actually, it's a really nice corner of the Languedoc. The Chardonnay that Guillaume and Isabelle Malfos, which are just basically good friends, we just hang out together and have dinner and try each other's wine. So Guillaume makes a Chardonnay which is unoaked, and what I like about the Chard is that it's not. Obviously, in the south of France, we have a lot of sun, so it's quite easy to ripen wines and to get big alcohol degrees. But as you can understand, when the alcohol goes up, the acidity goes down, so you get big fat Chardonnays. And personally, I really don't like that. I lived for about 15 years in Burgundy, where I like to dry white wines with a good minerality, good freshness, and a good straight structure. And this is one of those wines. It's got the body, it's got the white fruit like peach pear, but it still has a nice straight line going through it with a good acidity, what we call a vin étiré, a wine that is more stretched than that it is wide. Because the problem is when you miss that acidity, you kind of fall short. And this is his Chardonnay. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, I actually do know. It's 21-25, which is a lovely wine. And then the Cuvée Tradition, what I like about his Malpère, like the Cabernets, you can blend Médoc and Languedoc grapes. So he makes it with Merlot, but also with a little bit of Cabernet Franc. And I'm a big fan of Cabernet Franc. You don't find it very much here in the south of France, but it gives it a lovely flavor. So also very much a discovery, I think, for a lot of people, because Malpère is not something you see around very much, but worth trying. So the last wine, which is also the closest wine, which is this red label here, Rouge Lazerolles. This is my neighbor. So he is literally 3 minutes down the road. Raymond Julian. The problem is when I go and see him to taste any of his wine, it takes me about 2.5 hours just to taste a couple of wines, because he's one of those quintessential French winemakers. He's about 60 years old, a lot of beard, a lot of hair, and he's probably one of the reasons I will never want to leave this profession, because he just breezes. He's even towards the end of his career, his son is about to take over. He's just full of life, full of passion, and you know what is greater than to be able to work on that in that way every day. So I went to see Raymond, and this is again where we're talking about shared passion, and there's a lot of space in the wine market to share the wine market. And he's down the road. He's supposed to be a competitor, but you know what? He just makes a really awesome wine, and I'm super proud to be able to present that to you guys tonight. So I make Minervois, Chateau Canet, but so this is the Minervois of my neighbor, which is also really, really, really good. So I can definitely recommend the Rouge Lazerolles. So he's slightly different. He uses a little bit different grape varieties. I'm very much Syrah Grenache. He will add some Cinsault, some Carignan. Delicious wine, really, really nice structure. It's a big structure, but it's gentle, it's velvety. Obviously, I've chosen wines from people that I know, but also wines that I like myself to present them to Jane. But yeah, no, this is definitely the way I would like to see Minervois of all my competitors be. So there you go. I've come to the end of my little selection. Well, it's actually not that little, so, but
that's wonderful, Floris. I don't know whether everyone can hear me, but I take it from the fact that you have stopped that you can. So I'm assuming that everyone else can hear me too. And I just wanted to add to what you've said, because I completely agree with everything that you've said. I think for me, as I said at the beginning, that it's not been an easy year for people. But every cloud has a silver lining. And I think to have found some of these producers and tasted some of these wines, for me personally, has been absolutely fascinating. I really want to just thank you, though, for your generosity of spirit, because it's not everyone that actually is prepared or able to do what you've done to actually help promote your competitors around you, and I take my hat off to you for that, and I think it's a marvelous thing. Just going back to some of the wines, I just thought I'd mention the Viognier. I know that many people are not huge Viognier fans. For those people that do like Viognier, that Jouclari Viognier is just absolutely stunning. And many of you may know that Viognier, if it's grown and made in Condrieu, can cost hundreds of euros a bottle. and I think that this Jouclari is just absolutely stunning. So that was wine 2115. The other thing from Jouclari, one of my coup de coeur was the Les Amandiers, which I don't think you actually mentioned, Floris, but there are 4 wines from Jouclari in the
I wasn't wearing my glasses.
Cellar offering. And that's my coup de coeur, my favorite of the reds was the 2117. I think I agree with you completely about the very top. The oak-aged Guillaume De Jouclari was delicious, but if you want to have something which is a little bit more accessible from a sort of price point of view, then 2117 is something to think about. And then when you talked about Corbière, another coup de coeur for me was the Domaine La Combe Grande, which is 2124. Great value for money, absolutely brilliant value for money. The other thing I was just going to touch on, and then I'll stop speaking, and probably Philippe should have a turn. But you talked about the size of the Languedoc, and it's true, it's a huge area, but that is not to say that everywhere is the same. There is, it's a big area, there are many growers, there are many cooperatives. There's a lot of land that is sort of in the valley that is flat, where you can grow grapes. Grapes grow well, you get good yields, you can make nice wine. And then there are those sites that are more special, like Chateau Canet, like our friends at La Voûte de Verdus, who are in an appellation called Les Terrasses de Larzac, which again is a little outcrop limestone, clay limestone hill. And so you've got pockets within this huge area of really quite special sites. And I think what Floris has helped us to do is to find some of those really special people. And I have to say, next time, I was saying before we sort of started the call with everyone on the call, that often, because for some of you may know that I spend quite a lot of time, I have a place in Nice, and on my trips to Bordeaux, if I drive from Nice to Bordeaux, I pass very, very close to Chateau Canet, and more often than not, it is my halfway stopping off point to spend an evening tasting with Floris, and usually he puts a large steak on the barbecue, which is also a temptation to make me stay. And definitely next time I'm staying, Floris, I hope that we will have the opportunity to perhaps go around and to meet some of these people, because I would just love to do that, and to really get to know some of these characters and to taste a few more of their wines. So thank you.
Pleasure. No, it's an absolute pleasure, and we'll definitely go around. Or what we can also do is you can all invite them and put two large steaks on the on the barbecue, because our wines are completely vegan, but I'm not personally vegan. But no. Once again, I'll finish up and leave the word to Philippe to talk about his wines. But yeah, no, I can imagine you were talking about how it's difficult to choose about 60-year-old wines in such an interesting offering. And for the Languedoc part, there are only 12 or 15. So it's already narrowing down. But for that particular section, if I could give you any advice on what to choose, I would really say just buy them all. I think that would be the wisest move. So once again, thank you so much for including us. My road trip along all these domains was not only fun, it made me the most popular guy with my friends. So that's always very nice. And just the opportunity that the Opimian Society provided is you know, it makes you chaud au cœur, as they say in French. So thank you so much, and cheers, and God bless you.
Well, thank you very much, Floris, and thank you, Jane, for your input there. And to your point, Floris, I can't decide either, so I'm looking for 5 friends I'm going to buy all 61 cases and share it with 5 friends. And there's 2 or 3 spots there, so if there's anybody in Ontario, because we can't ship across provincial lines, but anyone in Ontario wants in on that, reach out to me directly, because I'm actually serious. I'm hoping to buy every wine on the list, and actually I'm going to lobby the the board to let Greg and I work out of France as well, so we can pop in on Floris whenever we want as well. So we'll make sure that there's a route by which we get really close to you, Floris. So and so thank you very much for doing that. I think that that's exactly what we wanted from this call, was for us to get a good sense of each of these wines so people can understand why they would want these wines. One of the things I wanted to point out was that we do have a wine pairing, a food pairing for each of the wines in the Cellar offering as well. And very recently we changed editors of this. Just so you know, we publish one of these every 5 weeks through the regular cycle, and it's a several month process. So there's always 3 or 4 in process, and it goes to an editor. And we've now got an editor who is a CBC food writer, and actually is on CBC radio all the time. So so then he's been doing the food pairings for us as well. So do pay attention to those, because I've tried a few and they're absolutely marvelous. I'm a foodie, and you can tell I drink wine occasionally, and I really enjoy those pairings. So that we don't have any end time here, Philippe, so I don't feel rushed in any way. Philippe Larche from Vintex, another fabulous partner of Opimian. They've provided wines for us from Bordeaux for years, and done a fabulous job, and he's taken time out of his evening in France. I believe you are in France, Philippe. And so he will do a similar job as Floris for the other, and I'll have Jane come in anytime he likes. So anytime she likes. So Anaïs, if you want to go ahead with Philippe, and over to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Merci, Michael. Bonsoir, bonsoir, bonjour, Quebec, Ontario, Alberta, British Columbia. I'm very, very happy to be here with you today. So now you're going to have to listen English with a French accent, but hopefully it will be okay. Vintex was founded in 1982, 40 years ago, and I think we've been the suppliers of Opimian from the very beginning. And I'm not going to repeat what Floris said, and he said it very well, but we feel very, very, very honored and very privileged to help the producers in the difficult times to sell their wine in Canada, thanks to Opimian, because this is a great opportunity for them to sell their wine in these difficult times. And we feel very, very indebted to Opimian for that. So thank you again for that. My wines go from number 2135 to 2141. So I'm representing one from Bordeaux. Bordeaux is the largest area in France as far as we are talking about producing fine wines, AOP, Appellation d'Origine Protégée. Bordeaux is the largest area in France. This is above 100,000 hectares. So Bordeaux alone is big like Burgundy and Champagne and the Loire Valley together. So Bordeaux alone is as big as Burgundy and Champagne and the Loire Valley. It is not as big as Languedoc, obviously, but when we're talking to Appellation d'Origine Protégée, Bordeaux is the largest area in France for making fine wines. The wines I'm representing tonight are from 6 different appellations. I'm representing 7 different wines, again from number 2135 to 2141. And they are from 6 different appellations in Bordeaux. I have one from Bordeaux, I have one from Côte de Bordeaux, I have one from the Grave area, I have one from Médoc, Fronsac, and Saint-Émilion. So I am representing 6 different appellations. Obviously, I'm not going to present all wines tonight because that would be too much. But these wines, all of them are from vintages 2015, 2016, 2017, and 18. So 4 different vintages, and all these vintages are beautiful vintages. So you do not have to wonder if you have a good or bad vintage. They are all good vintages. I would say we should go back to 2013, maybe, to find, I don't want to say bad vintage because I don't like to say that, but a very, yeah, this is a bad vintage.
A comparatively bad vintage.
Absolutely, Michael. This is the right way to say it. So probably 2013 is the poorest vintage in the last 20 years in Bordeaux, 2013, 2007 eventually. But we have been very blessed in Bordeaux in the last 20 years. We have a bunch of great vintages like obviously 2009, 2010, 2015, 16, 18, 19. Hopefully 2020 will be another great vintage. Obviously, it is also due to the global warming. We have more and more sunny weather, so it is easier and easier to make a good wines in Bordeaux. And so we have more and more great vintages now. I'm going to tell you about 3 specific wines, which are Chateau Lafrenelle from Bordeaux area. Then I will talk about Chateau Tessanday from Fronsac. And then I'm going to tell you about my favorite wine, Chateau La Chapelle d'Escourt from Saint-Émilion. Starting with Chateau Lafrenelle, this is number 2135 in the Opimian offering. This is a very unusual wine made with 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. And we are in the Entre-deux-Mers area, which is a very big appellation. And most of the wine from the Entre-deux-Mers are made from Merlot, usually 80, 90, 100% Merlot. And here we have 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, as you can see it on the front label. I guess we can find other wines made with 100% Cabernet Sauvignon in the Entre-deux-Mers area, but I'm even not sure about that. This is the only one I know. I guess we can find others, but I don't know any other wine in the Entre-deux-Mers made with 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. So it is very unusual. And because this is unusual, this is an unusual wine. And another important thing about this wine is that it is haute valeur, I don't know if you can see it, but haute valeur environnementale, which is, it has become very trendy in Bordeaux to turn to haute valeur environnementale for properties. The idea is to respect the terroir as much as possible and to protect the biodiversity on the vineyard and to use as little water as possible and to recycle the water. So this is very, very friendly oriented, and many estates in Bordeaux today are turning into HVE3. So Lafrenelle is one of them. Usually when we're talking about Bordeaux, of course, Bordeaux is the largest appellation in Bordeaux, but this is a generic appellation, Bordeaux. And when we're talking about Bordeaux, we're talking about wines we should drink in the next 2, 3, 4 years. This is not the case here with Chateau Lafrenelle because it is made with 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. It has beautiful structures. You can find spicy flavor on the nose, spicy and vanilla flavors. And we are clearly with a wine that you can keep for another 5, 6, 7 years, no problem. While again in Bordeaux, you should drink wine when they are young. We are clearly above the standard of the appellation here. And this is the one you can keep in your cellar. It has a beautiful structures. And this is 2018 vintage. Next one should be Chateau Tessanday from Fronsac. I chose Chateau Tessanday because it is coming from a lovely appellation, Fronsac. Fronsac is a tiny appellation in Bordeaux. It's only 1,000 hectares. 1,000 hectares is not so big when we have 120,000 hectares in Bordeaux. But this is a tiny appellation where this is the same size like Pomerol. Pomerol is also an appellation with 1,000 hectares. So this is the same size like Pomerol. And you have beautiful properties in Fronsac. You have many little gems, beautiful wines. And Chateau Tessanday is one of them. It has been in the same family since 1972, the Darfeuille family. I was born on the same year, so this is a great vintage. And Chateau Tessandais is a lovely wine. It is, first of all, I would like to tell you again about Fronsac. Fronsac, again, is only 1,000 hectares, but it is very rich in terms of history. Charlemagne in the 8th century used to live in Fronsac, and then we had le Duc de Richelieu living in Fronsac, and then we have Aliénor d'Aquitaine, and this is an area full of history and full of beautiful properties. Usually the estates in Fronsac are small properties, and Chateau Tessandais is one of them. It's only 8 hectares, so it is not a big estate. They are only making 25,000 bottles, which is not so big. Chateau Tessandais is number 2139. Oh, sorry, and I said it, I'm sorry. It is medium body. This is a medium body and supple wine. On the nose, you have flavors of a blackcurrant and oak flavor. It is aged 15 months in oak, and you can find it on the nose. This is wine I would drink. This is 2017 vintage. I would drink it until 2025, 2026. So this is a wine you can keep in your cellar. It is not a big wine. It is more on the medium body and easy drinking and soft tannins and supple wine. So this is an easy drinking wine and very elegant, beautiful fruit. And a wine you can drink now or keep for another five or 6 years. The last one will be Chateau La Chapelle d'Escours. Obviously, this is my favorite wine tonight. La Chapelle d'Escours is coming from a very tiny estate, only 3 hectares. This is a very small plot. This is 2015 vintage. 2015 is a big vintage in Bordeaux. 15, 16 are 2 great vintages. And that wine is aged in oak for 20 months. And before aging, it is vinified in vats that used to belong to Chateau Ozon. Chateau Ozon is one of the 4 premiers Grand Cru Classé A in Saint-Émilion. We used to have only 2, and now we have 4. We have Chateau Ozon, Cheval Blanc, and now we have Chateau Angélus and Pavie. So you have 4 first rows A in Saint-Émilion. So the vats used for vinificating that wine are coming from Chateau Ozon, which is quite unusual, and that brings good material for making a good wine. Chateau La Chapelle d'Escours is only 15,000 bottles. This is a small, very small property from 3 hectares. And the very unusual thing for Chateau La Chapelle d'Escours is that it is made with the 6 grapes. And in Saint-Émilion, only 6 grape varieties are allowed, legally authorized. This is Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot, Carmenère, and Malbec. You are not allowed to use any other grape variety in Saint-Émilion. So you can only use these 6 grape varieties, and they are all in that bottle. So when you should eat 5 fruits a day, when you drink Chateau La Chapelle d'Escours, you are eating 6 fruits at once. So it is very, very good for your health. This is a lovely wine. I'm going to taste it with you now and toast with you. I have been drinking for 30 minutes now, but I'm still okay. This is a very, very impressive wine on the nose. It is full of, you have intense flavors of blackcurrant. You have chocolate flavor, you have tobacco flavor. It is very intense nose. We are more on the full body wine. This is a very muscular wine. This is a wine you can keep for another 15 years, if you like. If you like to drink powerful wine, you can drink it now. But I would recommend it. I would recommend you to keep it for another 2 or 3 years before you start drinking it. When you open a wine like La Chapelle d'Escours, I would recommend you to open it 2 or 3 hours before you drink it, if you can do that. It is very important to decant a wine like La Chapelle d'Escours, because it needs a little bit of time to develop its flavors. So these are the 3 wines I wanted to tell you about tonight. I had 4 other wines in my selection, which is Chateau de Calac from Grave area. I had Altus de Chantegrive. This is another wine from Grave. I had Chateau de Moulin-Neuf, which is a beautiful wine from the Médoc area. And I had Chateau de Langalerie from Côte de Bordeaux. Needless to say, they are all beautiful wines, and I can only recommend you to buy as much as you can of this wine, because they are all lovely wines. And again, I would like to thank Opimian for their support. I would like to thank all of you here tonight. We are so frustrated that we cannot travel, that we are very happy and very excited to share that moment with you and have a toast with you. And it has become very trendy in France to have aperitif online, and this is like having aperitif with all of you tonight, and having aperitif with 60 people at once together. And I'm very happy to do that with you tonight. Thank you again. Thank you, Opimian, Jane, Michael. Thank you, everybody, and feel free to ask any question now.
That's great, Philippe. Thank you so much, and again, thank you to you. And I think I had a similar conversation with you about what were the opportunities, what could we do, was there anything that we could do in Bordeaux, and so pleased that you came up with these wines. As Philippe has said, some great vintages, and that last wine, the 2015, I was just looking back at my original tasting notes there, and I agree completely that the difficulty for me is that whilst it has long it has much more cellaring potential, it's so delicious now. I would really struggle not to have to open the odd bottle between now and the next few years, but certainly a really special wine, which, you know, despite its 5 years of age, it's showing youthful. It's got lovely intense blackcurrant, cooked black fruits, vanilla. It's mellow, and yet it's still youthful, and but you get that really nice savory character and some grip on the finish. So it really does demonstrate that it's here to stay for some years. And I'd like to point out there is an error in the cellar offering, because I had actually written up the notes that there are only 4 grape varieties. We found that out today. It's news. I think it's an amazing story, because I don't know any other property, not just in Saint-Emilion, but I don't know any other Bordeaux that I can name off the top of my head that has all 6 grape varieties in it. Certainly Carmenère is not very widely planted now in Bordeaux. Originally it came from Bordeaux. It's much more commonly found now in Chile, of course. But great. One other wine that you touched on really quickly that I am going to mention as well is the Moulin Neuf. You mentioned the Médoc wine. It's lot number 2138. Again, great vintage, 2016, very reasonably priced, and that was a real coup de cœur for me as well. Straight away, it just stood out, as they all did. It's, you know, very difficult sometimes to say which wine is best, or is this better than the other, because they all have their own personalities. It very much, Michael says, well, can you tell us what to buy? There's 60 wines here, but actually it comes down to what your personal tastes and preferences are. I certainly picked up that I think Philippe probably prefers drinking his wines from Bordeaux a little bit older than I do. So a lot of the guidance that you'll see in the cellar offering that I've written, probably drinking a little bit earlier than Philippe was suggesting. But again, it's all down to personal taste. And I think it's about, hopefully, one of the things that we can do with Opimian is help people discover more wines, but help them to unravel what you as members enjoy most, and help you discover more things that you're going to enjoy. And part of that is about knowing whether you are someone like me that enjoys young wines and old wines and everything in between, or some people just want to drink old wines. Other people prefer drinking them when they're much younger. So there's no right or wrong here. I agree that the food pairings are really, really important, and Bordeaux, the wines from Bordeaux just go fantastically well. I haven't got the food pairings in front of me right now, but I'm sure in the cellar offering you'll find some really, really good examples.
I'll speak to the La Chapelle because with all deference to Floris, the Saint-Emilion is my favorite appellation. Anybody who's seen the videos recently will already know that. But the pairing with that is leg of lamb with sage and pancetta, which makes my mouth water immediately.
And of course, lamb, Pauillac lamb is very, very famous
right.
and very traditional. So Pauillac, but Medoc's not Saint-Emilion, but lamb in Bordeaux is a very, very traditional sort of pairing for Bordeaux wines. So that's great. Thank you.
I'm
so
looking
much,
forward
Billy.
to the wine arriving. I've already ordered my case of this one, and I'll be making the lamb with it. So Philippe, if I may thank you very much for joining us, and Jane for your comments on Philippe's section as well. And Vintex is a cherished partner of us, as well as Floris from Chateau Canet. I made a couple of notes throughout this. Please feel free to ask any questions in the chat if you have any for any of the three of them. We did have a question privately about signing up for Italy. Yes, if you want to be on the Italy call next Saturday, you need to sign up separately. The fact that you're here doesn't get you into Italy. I will say that we did have over 100 signups for this, and we were at around 60 topped out here. So if you can't make it, please let us know so that we can open up that space to somebody else. We'd really appreciate that. And I did want to say that when we put the word out for this, we got 203 submissions for CWEB20. And as you know, there are 61 in the catalog. And that is all thanks to Jane Masters for helping us through that. So what you get the best of the best as Opimian members, simply because they're pared down like that for you. And so again, I wanted to thank Jane, Floris, and Philippe, and also Anaïs Philippe for having arranged all of this as our events coordinator. You can count on more of these online events as we go forward, regardless of whether we can do them in person or not. We'll continue doing them remotely. And in fact, I'll mention again the Masters Case. We're already at over 1,600 subscribers in the Masters Case program. And so what happens there is that you subscribe, and every cellar offering, we automatically enter an order for that case for you. And then when they start arriving in Canada, we're going to have a virtual meeting like this, when Jane will have all three wines with her from that case and taste them along with you, so she can tell you why she chose them, how they pair, and how they express the terroir of the particular place that they're from. So you get to go around the world with Jane Masters once a year with that. And just so you know, we have it very much in mind to revive the Opimian travel program when it becomes available to us. Floris has places to stay where he is, and my wife and I were fortunate enough to be the hosts of an Opimian cruise about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was just remarkable that we got to meet our suppliers along the way. And we had the most incredible meals and got to see the most incredible cellars in the world as a result of being Opimian members. So that's marvelous. So I will mention a couple of other minor things. We have opened this up. If one of your friends who's not an Opimian member wants to try Opimian, they can actually order from CWEB and get a trial membership for the duration of CWEB. So if you want to tell your friends about that, what they need to do is call member service. So they won't be able to sign up on the website. They'll have to call member service or email member service. And Anaïs, if you can type that into the chat, please, member service at opimian.ca and the 800 number, then they will have an opportunity to try that. And if they like it, which I'm sure they will, then we will be making an offer for them to become permanent members of Opimian. So I'm not seeing any other questions on the chat. Floris, Jane, Philippe, thank you so very much. Anything to add at the end here before I stop, while I keep talking? So I'm going to do it because we've got time. It's only 4:15. Yesterday I got this from my daughters for my birthday. It's a corkscrew that's made from the wood from Versailles. They had a big storm there in the last decade, and a lot of the trees fell, and they've made corkscrews from the wood from Versailles, and it comes in a pouch and everything. I'm just so very excited. I wanted to share it with all of you. So thank you so very much, all of you Opimian members, to join us today. And I hope we'll see you on the Italy call next Saturday. It will also be at 3 p.m. Eastern. And do keep an eye on your email for other offers and other virtual tastings as we go forward. So thank you again. Good afternoon and evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Merci,
Goodbye.
Michael.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. That's kind of fun. Next week is Italy. That'll be even better. Oops, should leave. Oops.
Merci Anaïs, au revoir.